Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. So we had a short break, but nice to see you all once again. So let us continue the journey, the profound journey of Sankhya Yoga, chapter 2. Before we begin, I'll say the prayers to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalake Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः।
Hare Krishna. So today we are going to cover slokas 2.55 to 2.60. I think we shared all the verses in the group. So I'll play the slokas now.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Parthamanogatan Atmanyevatmana Tushta Sthitaprajna Sadochyate Dukkheshvanudvignavana Sukheshu Vigata Spruhaha Vitaragabhayakrodha Sthitadhirmuniruchyate Yes sarvatranabhisnehastatra prapya shubhashubham Nabhinandanti nadveshti tasya prajna pratisthita Yada samharate chayam kurmongani vasarvashah Indriyani indriyarthebhyas tasya prajna pratisthita Vishaya vinivartante nidaharasya dehinaha रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते यततो ह्यपि कौन्तेय पुरुषस्य विपश्चितः इन्द्रियाणि प्रमाथीनि हरन्ति प्रसभं मनः.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So let us try to recollect. I know we are back after a short break, so let's try to recollect what the situation was a short while ago. There were tremendous roars of conch shells. People are all ready for war. A lot of, chemistry in the air. And now, in the middle of all of this, on one side we have Arjuna, who seems very still. But is he still because he's feeling very calm and quiet? No. He's still because he has so much of doubts in his mind, so much of confusion. And inside his heart, he's feeling a lot of sadness. And beside him, there is Krishna. Complete contrast. Complete contrast to Arjuna's situation. You have Krishna, who is completely still and calm. I know we had a short break, but I would appreciate if people kept the habit of trying to keep their video on. I think a lot of people have gone silent. We need to really be a satsang again. Come on, guys. So Sri Krishna, he already spoke about the immortal nature of self, and how Krishna was trying to coach Arjuna to handle the situation. And then Krishna was talking about samatvam, how you need to handle, sukha dukkha, shitoshnam. Remember all of that? And then Krishna speaks about how you need to be a Sthitaprajna. And after all this, Arjuna is asking a very key question. That's where we left the last session. Do you remember what Arjuna was asking Krishna? Anybody remembers? What was that $1,000,000 question? Okay, Simranji.
He was asking, how do we recognize a Sthitaprajna from outside?
Excellent. Excellent. Sthitapragyasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava. And then he's asking, Kim prabhashet, Kim asit, vrajet kim. So he has all these questions. Who is this person? Who is this Sthitaprajna that you are talking about? How does such a person speak? How do they sit? How do they walk? So this is where Arjuna kind of wants clarity. He's not just talking about judging somebody else. He's not just talking about how can I certify that somebody is a Sthitaprajna, but more he is curious whether he is now on the path to being a Sthitaprajna. He wants to check. If Krishna says this is how Sthitaprajna walks, he wants to check if he is also walking like that. So from verse 2.55 onwards, 2.55 to 2.60, Krishna is providing some very profound responses, and I just want to reiterate that it's not just some dry philosophical discussion. Krishna is giving a living portrait of a Sthitaprajna, and it is like a map for all of us, for our own minds, which is tired of running, which is tired of being turbulent. So let us see, who is a Sthitaprajna? Now Krishna starts in 2.55. Krishna says, O Partha, when one discards all desires arising in the mind and remains satisfied by the realization of the self by the self, that person is said to be of steady wisdom, Sthitaprajna. So this phrase contains two parts. One is Sthita, which comes from the root stha, that means to stand or being firmly placed. And the second part is Pragya, which itself consists of pra and gya. It's a clear, luminous knowing. So that is the combined word Sthitaprajna. So Sthitaprajna is not just somebody who has got a lot of intellectual knowledge. Sthitaprajna is someone whose intellect is firm and whose mind is calm. Someone who does not collapse internally when life is shaking externally. It's the example of a ship we gave. The ocean may have a lot of storms. The waves may be turbulent. But as long as the ship is not letting any water enter, it's going to stay afloat in the water. Just like that, a Sthitaprajna does not let the storms outside impact them inside. No, Krishna is highlighting two key things here. One is he says, Prajahati sarvan kaman manogatan. Prajahati means to abandon completely. What is asking us to abandon? It's a letting go, a deep letting go. See, like when we were all kids, most of us, we were very attached to some particular toys. Hopefully we are not attached to the same toys once we become 40, 50 years now. I hope. Right? So what we have done is we have kind of let go. We have let go of those attachments, correct? That is the kind of letting go that Krishna is talking about. Manogatan, it is pointing to desires which have taken root in the mind and cravings. See, all of us have so many such desires and cravings. Like, are we not all the time, if you watch our own mind, are we not all the time like, I'll be happy when they appreciate me, or I will be happy when I get that promotion, or vice versa. I'm going to be unhappy if somebody takes away my car, or I'm going to be unhappy if somebody takes away my precious iPhone. Isn't it? Its mind is full of this. And then Atmani evatmana tushtaha. Very powerful. That person, that Sthitaprajna, is delighted in the self, by the self. So, tushta, it points to real contentment. It's not just. So, Krishna is not talking about, okay, I give up, I'm not going to do anything. He's not talking about some kind of lazy giving up. He's not talking about some kind of, defeat. He's talking about a very conscious letting go. Because you are already content, then you are letting go. It's a very, very crucial distinction. See, why I'm saying all this is in the modern world, we have a lot of. Today, you see how the world is. It's a lot of stress, a lot of problems, and we come across a lot of people with mental issues, depression, isn't it? Depression seems to be such a common word these days. Anxiety, depression. So if you look at a person who is deeply depressed, many times they will also use the same language. They will say, I just don't want anything. Jane do, chodo. Isn't it? I don't need anything. I don't want to meet anybody. I don't want to do anything. Now, will you call that person a Sthitaprajna? Because Krishna is saying Sthitaprajna means you let go of your desires. But then a person who is deeply depressed also seems to be not having desires, but it's not the same thing. Why? Because when we say Sthitaprajna, for that person, the desires and craving, they have been replaced by something very serene, something very calm, something much higher. That is the kind of desirelessness that Krishna is talking about. This is a very crucial distinction, because at the end of the day, Arjuna wants to know if his state of mind aligns with being a Sthitaprajna. We all want to know, don't we? So eventually we should have that compass, and we should know that if we have no desires, not out of compulsion, not out of sadness, not out of force, but out of contentment and peace, that is somebody who is on the path of being a Sthitaprajna. So there is a Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad. It is also called as Mundaka Upanishad. And you can take it down, and later on you can do a search and read it yourself. It is Mandukya Upanishad 3.1.3. That says, when the seer beholds that golden Lord, the Creator, the Purusha, the source of Apara Brahma, then the knower, having shaken off all deeds of merit and sin, attains supreme equality, being untouched with stain. So they are explaining this kind of a state of mind there. So the key is contentment that comes through realization, self-realization, which puts you in a state of you don't need anything else. That is the kind of desirelessness that Krishna is talking about. There is this Shanti mantra. Some of you have heard it already. Some of us, I think we discussed it in another session, I think. Very beautiful mantra. Om Purnamadam Purnamidam Purnart Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. You might have heard that. No? Om, that is fullness, this is fullness. From fullness, fullness arises. When fullness is taken from fullness, fullness alone remains. So it's a very beautiful concept. If you are the technically minded person, then we can explain this technically also. What is the definition of infinite? The definition of infinite means it encompasses everything. Correct? You all agree with me? Infinite means everything that you can think of. That is infinite. Somebody says, what if I take something out of that infinite? Is it first of all possible to take something out of infinite? Tell me. How many of you think it is possible to take something from infinite? There's no right or wrong answer. We are just trying to reason here. Why do you think we cannot take something from infinite? Anybody has any ideas? No? Okay, Smita ji has a. Okay, Smita ji.
I feel infinite is something that we cannot measure. And if we
Correct.
take out anything from the infinite, it is still going to be unmeasurable only. So, उसकी कोई
Correct.
तुलना ही नहीं है. We can't add, we can't remove.
Okay, that's a technical answer. Thank you. See, I will give you a very simple, I will ask you, I will make you introspect a little bit. You took something from infinite, where are you going to put it? Because wherever you are putting it, also is part of infinite only, no? Because infinite itself means it encompasses everything. So how can you take? You can take, but then where are you going to put it? It's still going to be part of the same infinite. So that is how this whole Shanti mantra goes. And so the Sthitaprajna has touched upon this kind of fullness. That is the Sthitaprajna. There is nothing to take from that person. That person is that kind of full. Purnamadam. And so you cannot take anything from that person. And if you cannot take anything from that person, how can you disturb that person? Is the whole message. So I think it's a very powerful state to be in. And we should all strive to be a Sthitaprajna. Eventually, I think that should be our goal. Now, what does it mean in daily life? In daily life, it means that slowly we have to shift. Whenever we catch ourselves saying, I will be happy when, the moment you see that your mind is going in that direction, I'll be happy when, stop. Now you have to shift it to, I'm already blissful, I'm already complete. Krishna is not saying don't get a new dress. He's not saying don't get a good house. Krishna is saying don't make that a requirement for you to be happy, because you can never be happy that way. Is the message here. That is the state of mind from which, see, now if you go back to 2.47, Karmanne vadikaraste mahaphaleshu kadachana, it was a very fashionable statement, very popular statement. How do you do that kind of action without any expectation? This is how you can do it. That is why being calm, samatvam, is so important, because only from that state of mind can you truly perform nishkama karma. Because you are not in need at all now. You are already full. You are Purnamadam. And from that position, whatever you do will always be nishkama karma only. That is the whole science here. Now we come to the other part. Like, this is where we want to be. We want to be a Sthitaprajna. But where are we? Most of us, we are not yet there. We are not yet there means, where are we then? We are in that restless state. So in tradition, they use the image of a Mriga Trishna. Mriga is a deer, Trishna is a mirage, illusion. So Mriga Trishna is, traditionally we talk about the mirage that the deer gets, fooled by, and the deer is chasing. So in a desert, especially a hot desert, dry and hot, there is some physics going on there, because of which there is an illusion created. It looks as if there is water a kilometer away, and then the deer starts running towards it, but the more it tries to run towards it, the mirage keeps shifting. It looks like the water is further away, and it never reaches the water. Eventually it falls down out of total exhaustion. And that is the state. Why? Why does this become a very key example? Because that is our state of mind. We are always running behind a mirage, na? We think, that car, that promotion, that house, that boyfriend, that girlfriend, or that title, or that whatever. We think that is where contentment is. That is where happiness is. It's always somewhere else, and we are always chasing it. And we never truly find contentment, because that doesn't exist. That was in our mind. That was not reality. That is why we say, whenever your mind is in this state of mind, whenever you are like, I'll be happy when, stop, pause, introspect. If you have to be happy, you should be happy now. If you have to be happy, you should be happy with what you already have. If you cannot be happy now, if you cannot be happy with what you already have, you cannot be happy just because you got something. It could be a temporary moment of pleasure, but that will never be lasting happiness. That is what we need to totally understand. So you all know who is Vashishta, sage Vashishta. He is a very great saint, and he is called as one of the Saptarishis, 7 original saints. And he was also called as a Manasaputra of Lord Brahma because he was born out of Brahma's mind. And so it is said that he had conquered all the negative qualities. Vashishta had conquered desire, anger, miserliness, jealousy, pride, all of that he had conquered. That kind of a saint he was, powerful, great. And he was also the guru of Lord Ram. Lord Ram himself had accepted Vashishta as his guru. So Vashishta and Rama, they are having a long dialogue once. And Lord Rama, he is trying to question about the nature of existence, reality, how do we reach self-realization? All of those questions Lord Rama is asking Vashishta. And that discussion is documented. It is documented by another great saint, Valmiki. And this documented conversation is what is known as Yoga Vashishta. It's a very profound scripture again. Of course, it's not easy to read the whole thing and understand the whole thing, as a lot of those slokas are very technical. But I've took one sloka from that Yoga Vashishta, where Vashishta says that this world, though unreal, appears to exist. And that is the cause of suffering. See, pay attention here. Vashishta does not just say the world is full of suffering. Vashishta is saying that whatever is unreal appears to exist, appears to be real. This is the kind of Trishna we are talking about, the mirage, the illusion. And that causes suffering for a person who is chasing behind that. Just like a non-existent ghost is the cause of fear for a small boy. We all grew up. I don't know if your mothers did, but some mothers would threaten their child. If the child is not eating food, they would say, eat, otherwise Chu Mama will come, or eat, otherwise, some imaginary entity will come and yell at you, shout at you. And see, but a lot of those kids, they are afraid of those entities. Sometimes they are afraid of ghosts that don't really exist. See, what is the key point there? The suffering is real because they are afraid. The suffering is real, but the cause of the suffering is unreal. That ghost does not exist. See the problem. The problem is the cause is unreal, but the suffering is real. And that is what we all need to introspect and understand. And the word used in Advaita Vedanta is mithya. Mithya is that which is not true, that which doesn't exist. So some people ask, do you mean that, okay, I'm looking at this object. Are you telling me this does not exist? I'm holding it, I'm touching it. So this is how a lot of intellectuals, they will go on a tangent. But, so a very beautiful explanation given in Advaita Vedanta is they say that these are all conditionally real. And I would say contextually real. We discussed this in another session, I think, where one of our students, Soumyaji, had a similar question. See, it's like, have you all had dreams? All of us have had dreams, right? How many of you have had scary dreams? Okay. Apurva, you had scary dreams? Okay, tell me something. Have you really felt scared when you were in the dream?
I think I felt fearful.
You felt fearful. Excellent. You actually felt fearful, correct? Okay. But whatever you were feeling fearful of, did it really exist? Because once you woke up, you realize that that didn't exist.
Yes.
But when you are in the dream, it existed for you.
Yes.
That is why you were fearful. And how could you escape from that fear?
The moment I wake up.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Applause, applause. That is what we all say, we have to wake up. That waking up is realization. That waking up is what Krishna is trying to take us towards. So similarly, this is what we mean by conditionally existing, contextually existing. Just like, whatever you are afraid of in the dream existed as long as you were in the dream. But what existed in the dream was unreal, just like the dream itself was unreal. How would you realize it? Only when you wake up from the dream. Just like that, today you can say, you exist, I exist, that exists, this exists, yeah. But this is another dream. This itself is mithya. And as long as we are within that mithya, everything feels real to us. And our goal is to wake up from this dream. And that is what is realization all about, where you understand, where you realize what is Sat. And then you will know everything else was Asat, is the whole message. And what happens once you realize this? Once you woke up, now you can laugh about the dream, correct? Like today, now when Apurva is talking about the dream, she's not looking scared now. She was actually smiling at one point, saying, in the dream I was afraid. So once she is waken up that dream, you can laugh about it. So can we say that her mind is no longer disturbed by that dream? Because she's already woken up. Just like that, when we have self-realization, this mithya, this illusory world will no longer disturb us. That is the whole point here. So does it mean you should not have any goals? Does it mean you should not, strive for success? All these questions keep coming all the time. Is that what Krishna is saying? Do you think Krishna is saying we should have no goals, no ambitions? Okay, nobody is saying that's what Krishna is saying. That's good. The key message here is you can have goals. What is the problem? The problem is not having goals. Doesn't matter how healthy or how good the goal is. The problem is expecting peace and happiness once you reach the goal. That is where the problem is. Thinking that your happiness is yet to come. Thinking that your happiness depends on something else happening. That is the problem which Krishna wants us to work on. That is the whole message. So, Karmanya Vadikara does not say you should not do anything, you should not. Karmanya Vadikara says do. Focus on actions. All it says is don't be attached to the outcome. One of the outcomes we are attached to is we think that is going to make us happy, that's going to make us peaceful. Krishna says there is the problem and don't get into that. So there is another Upanishad called Chandogya Upanishad. There is a famous dialogue between Uddalaka and his son Shvetaketu. Where Shvetaketu is returning home after years of education. He's very proud that he has learned so much. But his father is a very wise sage himself. So his father very politely asks him, my child, have you learned that by knowing which everything else becomes known? Such a technical and deep question. So he's asking, have you known that by knowing which everything else becomes known? Shvetaketu thinks for some time and he says, no, father, I don't think I know that. Okay. But Uddalaka, his intent is not to just criticize his son, his intent to actually help his son understand what is true knowledge. So he's trying to explain through some experiments. So he's telling, can you get that fruit from the banyan tree? So Shvetaketu goes and obediently brings it. He says, now break the fruit. And what do you see inside? So Shvetaketu says, Father, I see many small seeds. He says, okay, take one of those seeds and break that seed. Shvetaketu obediently breaks that seed. He says, now what do you see inside? And he says, Father, I see nothing. There is nothing inside that seed. Now Uddalaka says, you think there is nothing, but there is a subtle essence that you do not see. He says, has not the entire banyan tree come out of that nothing? Isn't it? Because when you sow that seed, that gives birth to the whole tree, but you are telling me there is nothing inside the seed. So how did everything, such a big banyan tree, come from nothing? He says that is the essence. That is the essence of self. That is the essence of Brahman, he says. You may not see it, but it exists. So that is where in Chandogya Upanishad 6.2.1, the explanation given is Sadeva Somya Idam Agra Ashid Ekam Eva Dvitiyam. O gentle one, before this world was manifest, there was only existence. One without a second. See, that may be technical, too technical, but if you go back to the example of a seed, you open the seed, there was nothing. So that is where we say from nothing came everything. But then you sow the seed, the whole banyan tree came. At least that is easy for us to see and understand. And that's what they say. Before the world was manifest, there was nothing. And that nothing was existence. There was only existence. And then later, after that comes the Mahavakya. Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. So we all know Tattvamasi, but that comes after this explanation. Because then, once you understand this concept of the essence of existence, which may seem like nothing, but how everything came from that nothing, he tells Shvetaketu, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. Says, that you are. He says, you are that. Very beautiful. Now, Uddalaka gives another small exercise to make sure that Shvetaketu completely understands this concept of Brahman. So he says, can you get a bowl of salt? So he obediently gets a bowl of salt. He says, now, can you dissolve this salt in that pot of water? Okay, Father, I will do that. He puts the salt, stirs, it completely gets dissolved. Okay. He says, now can you take some water from the top? Can you taste it? He takes some water from the top, tastes it. He says, Father, it is salty. He says, okay, now take some water from the bottom, taste it. He tastes and says, Father, this is also salty. He says, but where is the salt, Shvetaketu? Can you show me the salt? He says, no, Father, I cannot show you the salt. I cannot see it. But it is there, Father. I know it is there. So he says, exactly, my son. You cannot see the salt, but it has pervaded the water completely. Any part of the water you taste is going to be salty. He says, in the same way, Brahman pervades the entire existence. Brahman pervades all of universe. That's what we mean by, Karanodakshi Vishnu and Shirodakshi Vishnu and Garbhodakshi Vishnu. We are trying to use all those terms to come across. So that is what we mean by God is everywhere. You see? Because just like that salt is everywhere in that water. And then he says that is the truth. That truth exists everywhere. That truth permeates all of creation. So, coming back, now if you see the world through this lens, through this understanding, then you will understand that Sthitaprajna, being a Sthitaprajna does not mean you are denying the world. No, it does not mean you are rejecting the world. It just points to a kind of a fullness which is already existing. You just have to realize that is the whole point. So just like that, In an ocean, we have so many waves. Nobody is saying we have to prevent the waves from coming. That's not the message. The message is let the waves come and go, but don't mistake those waves to be the ocean. The waves are temporary. They will come, they will go, they will create a ruckus when they are there, but that's not the ocean. The ocean is far greater, and you are the ocean. So how do we use that in our own lives? First, we have to be aware, we have to be mindful, and whenever we catch our emotions, whenever we catch our own disturbances in our mind, now we need to remind ourselves that those are like those waves. Let them come, let them go. Agama payino anityas tan titikshasva bharata. Remember that Shitoshna Sukha Dukkada, Krishna said. They will come, they will go, they are temporary. Don't get hung up on them, and don't identify with them. You can feel sad for a moment, that's okay, but you should never become a sad person. You can feel a little bit of happiness because something happened, that's okay, but don't identify yourself as I'm a happy person, because those sadness, those happinesses, they are going to come, they're going to go, they are temporary, they are here today, they will not be there tomorrow. Don't identify with them. What you identify yourself with? That fullness, that existence, that completeness, from which nothing can be taken. We just discussed that, correct? That is the inner climate of a Sthitaprajna. So that's what Krishna will say in 2.56, where he says, one whose mind remains undisturbed amidst misery, one who is free from desire for sensory pleasures, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady wisdom. It looks like a lot of different things, but once we understand the core concept, I think these are all just symptoms. Now this state, Krishna will take it to the next level in the very next verse, 2.57, where he will say, one who is without attachment in all circumstances, regardless of whether they are good or bad, who neither rejoices the good nor avoids the bad, their wisdom is steady. Now the term used here is Dukkeshva Anudvigna Manaha. Again, Krishna is not talking about somebody who feels nothing. Udvega means agitation. Anudvega points to the absence of disturbance. See, it's a very key distinction. If you are having any questions, feel free. You can raise your hands, you can ask me, because this may sound technical, but this is a foundation. This is a foundation on which a stable, steady mind can be built. Okay, so the term Krishna is using is the absence of disturbance. Krishna is not talking about the absence of sensitivity. You can feel sorrow. You can feel happy. Krishna is not saying you should never feel happy or you should never feel sad. That's not the message. The message is anudvega. And what that means is the disturbance should not be there. That feeling of happiness or that feeling of sadness should not cause disturbance in you. You should always be steady. Is the whole message. And then Krishna is using the phrase Vigata Spiraha. Equally important. Because Sthitaprajna is not a slave to their memories of past pleasures or their anticipation of future ones and so on and so forth. They are capable of enjoying, but their mind is not attached to that enjoyment. In short, they let every moment come and go. Every moment is allowed to be complete the way they are, So this is what in Buddhism, they use the term two arrows. I think we discussed that earlier. In Buddhism, they teach it as the concept of two arrows. The first arrow is anything that happens in our life, the situations, the loss, the illness, the failures. These are all situations. They are never in our control. That is the first arrow. The second arrow is how we react to that. But that is in our control. So the teaching is very simple, beautiful. It says there are two arrows. One arrow is in your control. One arrow is not in your control. So whenever an arrow which is not in your control comes in your way, do you have to respond by throwing another arrow? It's saying that is in your control. So in our daily lives, what that means is, first of all, don't get hung up on past, because the past doesn't exist. The past exists only in our mind. Otherwise, the past doesn't exist. Many times, a lot of our pain is based on past. How something was. Maybe it was something very beautiful. Maybe it was a very good memory. It doesn't exist now, so you are now feeling sad. Or maybe something bad happened. Somebody said something, somebody did something. But in many instances, I have seen people feeling sad about what a person said a few years ago, although that person is already dead. But they are now sad about what that person said. No, it's like the person doesn't exist. What the person said also no longer exists. So why does your sadness still exist? Isn't that a making of our own mind, right? It's that is the second arrow that we have in our control. So this is how we put it to use in our daily lives. Just like that, we are always worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. But have you all not been worried so many times of so many things? Have all of those things happened? I wish I'm afraid that I may fall. I'm afraid that I may this. I'm afraid that this may happen. I'm afraid that an asteroid may hit the earth. So many things we can sit and we can create worries for the future. And if you look, we have been doing it for a long time, but 99% of our fears never really materialized. Na? So these are the two things to keep in mind. Don't get hung up on the past, nor should you, attach too much importance to your worries of the future. Be in the moment. That is the meaning of be in the moment. Now, Krishna is now talking about some practical mechanisms of protecting our inner stability, and is using the example of a tortoise. This is a very beautiful lesson, where Krishna says in 2.58 that when one withdraws their senses completely from the sense objects, just like a tortoise withdraws its limbs, then their wisdom is firmly established. See, the tortoise, does it permanently withdraw its limbs? No, it withdraws only when required. Only when it thinks that there is a disturbance, it will withdraw. And when it thinks things are fine, it is going to again come back to normal. Just like that, Krishna is saying we need to have the capacity to withdraw our senses from the sense objects. So what is the key message here is the capacity to choose. This is what we mean by the second arrow. You have that choice. You have to exercise that choice, and you have to withdraw your senses from the sense objects. That is one of the mechanisms Krishna is giving. So there is another Upanishad, Katha Upanishad. There it is 1.3.10, where if you are interested in the technicalities, you can read 1.3.10 of Katha Upanishad, where it talks about how the senses are superior, but then higher than the senses is the mind. Higher than the mind is the intellect. And higher than the intellect is our Mahat, our self. So the senses are always running outward, and the mind is chasing whatever the sense points to. Now the intellect can see the pattern. The intellect is the one which is able to see that, hey, the mind is just running behind whatever the senses are pointing to. But then what is even higher than that mind is the self. It's saying that is why self-realization is the ultimate goal for all of us. Now again, I want to make a distinction here. There are some people, there is a word called repression. It's a technical word, or you can even say suppression, where the key is not that you are forcing, like it's not that you are physically tying your hands and saying, I'm going to make sure I don't touch that thing, or you're putting a tape in your mouth and saying, I'm going to make sure that I'm not tasting something. That's not the point here. The point is pratyahara. Pratyahara is something that is guided by the intellect. So it is something that you are doing out of your own intellect. Your intellect tells you that you should not be running behind that. Your intellect tells you it's not good for you. And then you are avoiding it. That is what we are talking about. So how can we kind of practice this in day-to-day life? Like some of us are fond of keeping the laptop in our laps. I've seen some people who say, there is a reason why they call it a laptop. It's supposed to be in my lap all the time. So the life is going around us, but we are so stuck to that laptop. So can you close it for a while? And can you spend 5 minutes being mindful of what's going around you? One example of pratyahara. Because your intellect should tell you that you can always get back to your laptop, but something beautiful is happening. Maybe your child is taking its first steps, or maybe your favorite flower is just blooming, or so many things are happening all around us. So can we take a moment to just close the laptop, pay attention to what is going on, and then come back to the laptop? A small exercise in pratyahara. Or you are all going, you and your best friends, maybe you are going somewhere to a restaurant, you want to enjoy the food. But have you been to a restaurant lately? I mean, you will see what goes on there. Most of the times I've seen people, they're all sitting together, but each one is busy in their own phone. Let me check an Instagram, somebody has posted something, so can you put that phone away for a few minutes and just appreciate the company you have? Pratyahara. That is pratyahara. You shouldn't expect that somebody else will come and snatch away the phone from you. See, I'll give you a very real example. It may sound funny, but it happened. I don't want to take the name, but I know somebody very close to me, very dear to me. I was telling them that, can you try to, unglue yourself to the phone, because that person is usually glued to the phone. They're inseparable. And I was like, can you try to give it a break every once in a while? So that person actually went and bought a device. It's available. You can go search on Amazon. I forgot the name. It's some box. So it's actually a box with a timer. And you can put the phone inside that box. It locks, and then you can set a timer. You can say 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever timer. And then for that much time, you cannot open the box. So this person actually tried that. Said, okay, now I'm going to not touch the phone for some time, every once in a while. So they bought this box and they very proudly showed it to me, saying, see, now I'm practicing what you taught me. And but that's not really what was the teaching, but I didn't stop them. I said, you know what happened within a week? They donated that box to thrift store. I mean, they just got rid of that box. Because that's the problem. You cannot force. You cannot go into the force mode. It has to come from within. What does that mean? You have to use your own intellect. Let your intellect be your guide, and let your intellect tell you that this is supposed to be done because that is the right thing to do, because that is good for you, so on and so forth. So when it comes from within, then it can last. Then the pratyahara will be effective. Very powerful message. Just like that, if you are tempted, somebody is tempting you with a kind of a discussion, and you know that if you continue the discussion, either it will just become a gossip or it's going to become a useless argument. You know that. But you have the temptation, you have that, lot of us, we just have to say something, right? We want to be heard, Can you now control that? I mean, using your intellect, of course. Nobody should be coming and telling you keep quiet. But can you do that from within, from your own intellect? Can you make that decision? That is another small example of pratyahara. So when Krishna says like a tortoise which is pulling its limbs. This is what it means. These are the small ways in which we can also practice pratyahara. It has to be practiced. Abhyasa yogena. Very important. After saying all of that, now Krishna comes and speaks about the mechanism of desire itself and why we should not give in to desires. That is 2.59. It says, simply depriving the senses of their objects is not the solution. Why? Because the inner rasa, the craving, will still remain. Just like you can put your body physically in an ashram. I've seen people who will religiously say that once a year I have to go to a resort or something. That's okay. That part is in your control. But can you force your mind also to be in that ashram with you? It's not easy. Many times you can force your body to be somewhere, but your mind is always going somewhere else. That is the craving. And Vivekananda will also say that that is a very dangerous impediment for any kind of spiritual growth. But if we have to avoid that craving, we have to first understand why it is bad. We have to understand why desires are not to be chased. Desires are not going to give us happiness. That is what a very popular shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam 9.19.14, where it says that desires for sense objects is never pacified by enjoyment of them. Just like fire is never satisfied by providing oil to it or providing ghee to it. Can you say, I will satisfy the fire by pouring more oil? The fire is only going to grow bigger. Just like that, Krishna will say, why? If you try to fulfill a desire, saying, let me fulfill this one desire, then I'll be fine, you will not be fine. You fulfill that desire, the desire is growing stronger. Next time it is harder now. So what is a better approach? Pratyahara. Pratyahara is withdraw your senses from the sense objects. It's like saying, let me look at just 3 more Instagram reels, then maybe I will stop. Do you stop after 3 more? It's like saying, let me just spend like 5 more minutes scrolling through this YouTube content. But is it making it easier to stop after that? It's actually making it harder now to stop. That's the message. Every addict knows this. Have you, some of you may have friends who are trying to get rid of smoking, or some of you may have friends who are trying to get rid of drinking. I'm sure some of us have such people in our lives. If you ask them, you see, the problem always is they will say, I will just have one last smoke and then I will stop. Or I will have one last peg and then I will stop drinking. You see, these people, they usually are never able to totally stop. Because that one extra smoke has only made their desire for smoking stronger. Just like that one extra peg has made their desire for drinking even stronger. So the message is, that is why they are giving the example of a Mriga Trishna. Don't say that once I reach that, once I fulfill that, you are not going to fulfill anything. You are only going to strengthen your desires. What is the solution? Pratyahara. So I will break it down into 3 parts. The 2.59. There are three, I would say, partial truths there. 1, if you suppress your desires, if you just suppress them without insight means your intellect is not really working. You are just suppressing. Then what will happen? Physically you will avoid enjoying, physically you will avoid something, but mentally the craving is going to remain, and that's only going to keep you more and more agitated and disturbed. Second truth, indulging without wisdom will only make the desire bigger, stronger. Krishna is not saying don't be happy. Krishna is saying use your wisdom when you are indulging, otherwise you are only feeding the fire. Third, only a higher vision, which is Param drishtva, that will truly remove that craving. So, how to get rid of that craving? By replacing it with something higher. 3 simple truths. I think it's hopefully easy to understand. You can put this all together and then you can see how Krishna is talking about a 2-step process. Step 1, consciously withdrawing from stimulation. That's the pratyahara he's talking about. Step 2, once you have withdrawn, now substitute. Substitute with something higher. So that way, the energy of desire, you cannot destroy energy. Even some of you are here science students, where even in science, that's what they say. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another. That's a teaching in science, right? So your desire is also an energy. You cannot just destroy the energy, but you can transform it. And that is Krishna's powerful message here. So, but to do that, first you have to be mindful. Be mindful, practice pratyahara, withdraw, and then replace the craving with something higher. Craving for self-realization, craving for God, and all of that. And finally, Krishna is giving a warning. He's giving a warning in 2.60, where he says, "O son of Kunti, even though a wise person may strive to control them, the turbulent senses can violently carry away their mind." It's a warning for all of us. Let us not get into this false sense of control and false sense of pride. The word used is pramatini, something that disturbs. So Krishna says, don't take the mind lightly. The mind is very powerful. Even someone, vipashittaha, means even someone who is endowed with discrimination, they can still be swept away if they are careless. So Krishna is not trying to create fear in us, but he is making sure that we know what we are dealing with. Has any of you read the book The Art of War by Sun Tzu? Okay, that's sometimes if you're interested, you can take a look at that. So there he says, it is very important. If you don't know yourself and if you don't know the enemy, you will lose every battle. If you know yourself but you don't know the enemy, then you may win some, you may lose some. But if you know yourself and you know the enemy, that is when you have a good chance of winning most of your battles. So Krishna is saying, now you should know your mind, you should know what you are dealing with, and that is why he is giving this warning. So how is it important? Don't be careless. Don't say, yeah, it's okay, I am already a, Sant, I am already a elevated soul, so it's okay if I binge one day, it's okay if I, do something tamasic just once, it's okay, I'll be fine, I have control over myself. And this kind of misconception is very dangerous, is what Krishna is saying. He's saying because if you're not careful, the mind will sweep you away. It's like snake and ladders. You are on house 98 and you're not careful, boom, you go all the way down to 0. And that is the message here. He's saying, know what you are dealing with. Do not take it lightly. He's saying, Indrayani pramatini haranti prasabam manah. The turbulent senses can violently carry away the mind. Very, very, very important. See, this is where I think we can spend just 5 more minutes, hopefully. So Shankaracharya has explained this very beautifully in Viveka Chudamani. You can write it down. Viveka Chudamani, verse 76, where he talks about Kuranga, Matanga, Patanga, Meena, Bringa. Where Kuranga is a deer, Matanga is an elephant, Patanga is a moth, Meena fish, and Bringa is a black bee. And he explains how each of these animals, they all have a weakness for one sense organ. And because of that one weakness, they still go towards their own destruction. Like a deer has a weakness for the sense of sound. So it is said that if a hunter can play melodious music, the deer may just stand still, trying to enjoy the music and easily be shot. Just like that, It is said that a moth has a weakness for light. Haven't you seen? I don't know if some of you have traveled to rural India, like in some villages. You will see that the shopkeepers, what they will do, they will apply castor oil to a polythene bag, and they will hang it right next to the bulb. And all the moths, they are all flying towards the bulb, and they all get stuck in that in that oily bag, and they die. But so like that, Shankaracharya says, see how each of these animals, they are all going towards that destruction because they all have a weakness for one sense organ. He says, look at you. You have a weakness for all five senses. How delicate your situation is. That is the message. So what is the solution? We all have such strong weaknesses in us. We are all, walking such delicate paths in our lives. So what is the solution? Anybody knows what the solution is? What is the easy solution, I would say? Okay, we have one person today. Let us. Where is Chitraji? Okay. Yes, Chitraji, what is the solution?
Direct all the senses towards Krishna, Ananya
Correct. Is there an easy way to do that?
Bhakti.
Is there an easy way to practice bhakti?
Substitution.
Is like any examples? Any mechanisms?
Pratyahara.
Oh, yes. We are going in circles, yes. Somebody just said, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama eva kevalam, Kalav nasti eva, nasti eva gatiranyata. This is the message given by great saints. They are all said that in this Kali Yuga, Chitraji, your answer is correct. What you said is very true. Substitution, keep your mind always in God and all of that. But what is the easiest way to do that in Kali Yuga? See, if it was Satyuga or Treta Yuga, you could just sit and meditate for 100 years. But can we do that today? In Kali Yuga? In Kali Yuga, if we can meditate for 1 minute completely, that's a great achievement. No? So that is why Lord Chaitanya has said, Hare Nam. That is where chanting is so important. That is one of the easiest ways, See, first we have built the whole foundation. We have built the foundation on what the goal is. We have built the foundation on what the challenges are. We have built the foundation on what the problem really is, how powerful it is and all of that. And we have built the foundation on you cannot control the desire. You can only be aware of it, withdraw your senses, and then substitute. Correct? All of this we have learned, and finally we are saying what is the easiest way to achieve this. The easiest way is practice chanting. The more you practice, the more easier it becomes for us to replace those cravings with it. Because you have to always be in that chintan. Only then you can replace with that. Correct? That is the whole message. So, the concluding thing I would say is, we are talking about the journey from illusion to essence, from Mrigatrishna to Sthitaprajna. That is the transition we are talking about. And from Arjuna's trembling and confusion to Krishna's calm, steady smile. So that is the journey we are all on, and my best wishes and blessings with all of you here. Maybe you all reach that stage. With that, I can stop talking. I can open the floor. If you have any questions, comments, please let me know. And my request is, as far as possible, please participate. This is a satsang. Otherwise, it's easier for me to just record and send a recording. You can listen whenever you want. But if you are part of a satsang, it always helps to be participating, because it's amplifying. It's a collective consciousness. When we are all together, when we are all participating, the learning happens much more faster. That is why we are having this kind of a satsang setting. So did anyone have any comments, questions? I know it's slightly long session, but yes, Chitraji, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Hare Krishna Guruji. I had two questions. So, where the example of tortoise you had given, na? So, the capacity to choose when to come out and when to go inside, isn't that same as sense of discernment? Like
Correct.
when we understand when to respond and not to react, or
Correct.
right? So that is same as discernment, right?
Yes.
But like
Viveka.
terms wise.
Yes. Viveka. That's what Krishna is saying. Use your intellect. Yes.
And this pratyahara, like one is the way of guiding your intellect towards the rationale of why it is not good for you, and then slowly your mind, once your intellect is convinced, then it guides you that this is how you need to go. But there could be other way of just going by faith, no?
Yeah, but faith itself is a function of the intellect, na? Like, why do you think faith is good? Why do you think faith is right? Like you just said, we can use faith, but what part of you is making that conclusion? वो भी एक function of intellect only, right? So what if you read all any scripture, if you read any of these profound scriptures, they will all say that the intellect is ultimately important, but its job is to take you to that conclusion. Take you to that conclusion that at the end, the ultimate, the best approach is surrender, sharanagati.
Yes.
But that faith will come only when your intellect has convinced you that that faith is important.
So, where I'm saying is, the perspective from what I'm saying is, in having faith, there is no intellect being used.
No, I would say
Like, उसमें तिकड़म नहीं लगाना है कि ये क्यों अच्छा है. For example, having sattvic diet.
Yeah, what I'm saying is having faith means your intellect has already done its job. Now just have faith and let faith be your driving force is the message. Like Guru ने कुछ बोला है बस सुनने का, that is faith, good. But what made you get into that mindset?
Because
Somewhere
I have faith.
Yeah, but what got you into that mindset that we should just listen to what the Guru says? That is a function of your intellect. Somewhere your intellect has convinced you that that is the right approach. Just listen to the Guru. So all we are saying is faith does not mean you are not using your intellect. Faith means your intellect has already done its job. Now focus on just faith. Focus on surrender. Yes, Sulata ji.
Here, you said when we are in bhakti yoga, bhakti path, it is pehle manna then janna. That means here also, like when we say we are pehle manna, matlab intellect has done its job. Ki having that faith also needs that kind of intellect, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. All I'm saying is, so first we have to know what is Sat, what is Asat. Once we have an understanding, then we say that faith is always towards Sat. Correct? Do you have faith on something which is not Sat? Then that is not faith. Na? Faith is always on what you believe is the truth. So what is truth? What is Sat? All of that your intellect has already done its homework. Somewhere you have studied, somewhere you have read something, somewhere your intellect has gone through it. Your intellect is now convinced. It has told your mind that yes, that seems right. And then your mind takes over and then faith comes into play. If the intellect was not in the picture at all, then it cannot be faith. It can only be fanaticism. Then it cannot be devotion. It can only be delusion. Blindly somebody said, oh, go and kill that person, then you will get heaven. And I'm going and killing that person. My intellect was never in play here. You see? Now that becomes delusion. That becomes fanaticism. You see my point? So, a person of faith, a person of devotion has at some point utilized his intellect, viveka. Without that, it's a very difficult distinction to make. Okay. But yes, you are right, Chitraji. At the end of the day, the goal should be to get into the mode of faith, and we should prioritize devotion, bhakti. That's where Krishna is also going to lead us to. So maybe with that we can conclude for today. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Looking forward to more participation next time. And blessings and best wishes with all of you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guruji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Guruji.
Krishna,
Hare
Guruji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.